Bobby, you ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order the August 17th, 2021 Brooklyn City Schools Board of Education meeting. Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Oper.
Here.
Mr. Slattery.
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Here. Can we stand for the pledge? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and effective fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium, state his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all those who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Do we have anyone who would like to speak tonight? Okay. Now we are going on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming this evening, and as we, August 17th, we are on the cusp of welcoming our staff members back next week and welcoming kids back for orientation next Thursday and Friday and first day of school on the 30th. So just a quick district update with some dates for you to be aware of it, and then I want to go into briefly, we've talked about this quite a bit, but I want to kind of present the official opening plan with regards to how we're going to open the school year, talk a little bit about some of the obvious challenges that we're going to face again this year, but just have a conversation so you understand kind of the perspective of where we're going from this year. So our Polaris students started back today. That went very well, so excited to have our Polaris students back at school today. Next Wednesday, we have a back-to-school community rally from 6 to 8 at the stadium. Hopefully weather permitting, but we're looking very we're very excited to welcoming our students back and our community back to the start of the school year. 26th and 27th, so next Thursday and Friday, we have grades 1 through, well, actually we have all grades, K through 1 through 12 will be orientation, and our principals have sent out information to our families regarding that schedule. One of the things that we learned last year from COVID, and this is a positive, that kind of having that one-on-one small group attention to our orientation really helped us get the year going. So a very similar format to that for next year, small group, individual appointments by grade level. Building principals have kind of that set schedule for families to go through, and the parents should be receiving, especially at our lower school, information on how to sign up for the orientation. The same dates on the 26th and 27th are kindergarten screening. So this would be an opportunity for assess our graduating class of 2034. Those are our kindergartners graduating class of 2034. Orientation for our, and we're all going to be here still, right? We're all going to be here. And orientation for our kindergartners will be Monday the 30th. And our first day for our students in grades 1 through 12 will be the 30th also. And then the next day on that Tuesday will be the first official day for our kindergartners. Preschool's kind of on a different schedule, so Mr. Bullen's kind of and Mrs. Jones have kind of done an individual schedule for them. Labor Day, obviously no school, and then we're going to do something a little different this year. Maybe get back to some setting up some traditional district-wide open house. We're gonna try to account for some of the crowds. We know that we're gonna have heavier crowds at our lower buildings, so our pre-K through 3 families will be welcome from 5 to 7. Our grades 4 through 12 will be welcome for 6 to 8. There's that hour overlap, so if families have a pre-K through 3 and then a 4, they'll be able to kind of easily do that into the schedule. So we're thoroughly excited to welcome our students and staff back next week and the following week, and we're looking forward to a great year. This morning, we had our draft class of 2021, and so we were very welcome to welcome about 30 new staff members to the district, from our monitors all the way up to our administrators. We're very excited. You can see Mr. Boland's back there, stands out pretty clearly, 6'7", you know, so he stands out pretty well. But very excited to welcome our new staff. And Mrs. Kalish and the administrative team had a great program for them today, so they got to get to know everybody and kind of get acclimated to the district. So very excited about that. So as we enter the school year, we're faced with another year of COVID. Very different than last year. Last year we were figuring out remote, hybrid, in-person, color codes, all of those things, masks, no masks. Very stressful. This year, we're still facing some challenges, but I'm happy to report that we're going to open up 5 days a week. We're going back to a pre-pandemic schedule, and we're very excited for that. That being said, we are still going to have challenges regarding what that looks like. You know, we know that there's going to be physical, social, emotional, COVID concerns, challenges that we have to deal with. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over that today. Learning options, I've already kind of reviewed this, but I'll quickly go over that. Option 1, in-person learning. Option 2, Mr. Hare and his team have done an amazing job setting up our Brooklyn Digital Learning Academy. We have somewhere in the number of 50, how many kids in BDLA?
Today we're at
42 students in BDLA, both AM and PM session. That's a hybrid program, so very excited for that. And then our third option, an Ohio online learning program for our grades K through 8, and that's a very limited program for our families and our students, or students who have health-related issues that may need to stay out because of COVID. Very small numbers in the district. Less than 5 students are taking advantage of that. So on the 30th, we're going to be welcoming over 99% of our students back into the district. But we're very excited also to provide these options for our families, for our students. March of 20, the pandemic hit, and we have had some of our students that have not been back in person for over 18 months. And that's okay. But we know that going into this school year, we are going to have to really take a hard look at our social emotional supports for our students and our families, right? Because there's anxiety that comes with coming back this school year, especially with the presence of COVID still around for us. So we're going to be taking a hard look at that. Mrs. Jones, building principals, counseling staff. We have a new coordinator of family outreach and mental health services that will be looking at that social emotional component for our kids. Mrs. Jones has created a district level, I'm going to call it a guidance committee. That's not the official term, but it's a committee of our mental health professionals that will be working in conjunction with our building principals in assessing student mental health needs. So that's one of the focuses for this school year. Athletics and extracurriculars. So I'm going to give you the update as of today at this moment. And I think what we've learned from the pandemic is things can change pretty quickly. But here's where we stand right now with regards to athletics and extracurriculars. And this is from a state mandate standpoint and Ohio Athletic Association. So there is no restriction on venues in the state of Ohio. There's no limit on ticket allotment for families like we had last year. And our marching band, Hurricanes, and cheerleaders are permitted to travel to away events. So everything that was in place last year with regards to limiting venues, limiting facilities, limiting to kids' travel is currently non-existent, right? We've talked about before the transportation piece regarding wearing a mask. That's something that we're going to follow the guidance of CDC, follow the guidance of our legal counsel, and we're going to enforce that at the transportation level. OHSAA, Ohio High School Athletic Association, has not issued any guidance, any mandates in terms of ticketing, venues, social distancing, game procedures. Nothing at this moment. Should any of those restrictions change, which could, this is a fluid situation, we'll follow those OHSAA and state guidelines and state mandates. Food services. One of the results of the pandemic is that USDA has announced that all students will be able to receive free breakfast and free lunch throughout the school year, 21-22 school year, and we will absolutely honor that. We'll still ask families to fill out free reduced applications in terms of school fees, things like that, because we still want to have a good list of what that looks like, because who knows how long this will be in place. So we want to make sure that we have a good list for this year, so that when we roll over the list for 22-23, those students are set up for success that year. Cafeteria access will resume for all students. We're going to assign seats for contact tracing purposes. And I want to make this point about masking, because I think this is important. Whether or not we were a district that would mandate masks or give families option, there's going to be situations during the school day, during after-school activities, where kids do not have masks, right? Kids can't eat with a mask on. So in our cafeteria will be one of those situations where all students, whether or not parents have their children wear masks or not, students will not be wearing masks. We're going to encourage them, when they're done eating, if kids are wearing it, to wear those masks. But also, it's the cafeteria, it's their downtime, some of those things. So there will be situations, athletics, potentially PE, when kids are outside, they don't need to wear masks. So those things will happen in the cafeteria. We're going to the best extent possible, to try to keep kids 3 feet from each other. But I'll use the preschool example I used this morning. Pretty hard to keep a preschooler, a 3 and a 4-year-old, 3 feet away from their peers. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're operating, we're going back to a pre-pandemic schedule in terms of schooling. Some breakfast times for families, and I know, Mr. Singer, you had brought this up to me in a conversation at some point early in the spring. Grades K through 4 will eat from 8:05 to 8:25. Grades 5 through 12, breakfast will be eligible from 7:30 to 7:55. We know there are situations where mom and dads have a K through 4 and then a 5 through 12. Mr. Boland, Ms. Smith have set up opportunities for mom and dad to drop off their students at the same time, so we don't have to worry about that. So what I would say to our families, if you have that situation, give Mr. Boland, give Ms. Smith a call to make sure those arrangements are met. We absolutely want to work with families in terms of that drop-off procedure. We know we're changing the start time. Part of the reason we're changing the start time is last year when we were open, we basically had 20% less families trying to drop off kids in the morning. Part of the staggering time is to help alleviate some of that traffic pressure in the morning. And we'll see how it goes, right? We'll see if it really works. It's going to be one of the, and so we're open to making adjustments going into next school year, or making adjustments to where grade levels drop off. But one of the main reasons we're doing the drop off, the change in times, are to alleviate some of those traffic issues. Transportation. I've talked about this. On the bus, all staff and students are required to wear facial coverings while riding district transportation. We're asking that students sit no more than 2 students per seat with that mask on. We're going to assign students seats, so we can help with contact tracing. And then any of our families that receive transportation, they'll be contacted by Mrs. Sefcik with regarding to pickup and drop-off times. And very excited today, we were able to do a bus tour for the new staff, and Mrs. Sefcik drove us on our Brooklyn bus, so very excited for that.
Where'd you go?
Everywhere. Everywhere. Mr. Kalish, we went everywhere, right? We went everywhere, all right. All right. I'm going to stop there before I get into the health and safety protocols. Any questions regarding anything we've talked about beforehand?
The start times, what are the start times so we can
Great
clearly
question.
state?
Yes.
Right now for the parents.
Grades K through 4, 8:30,
And they get dismissed at,
3:05.
okay?
Grades 5 through 12,
Mm-hmm.
8 o'clock to 3:05. So everybody's walking out the door at the same time. We have that stagger in the morning.
Thank you, so we have that, okay.
As far as masks, if a family chooses, as we stand right now, they want their child to wear a mask, we're fine with that.
We
But we're not policing to make sure that the kids are wearing it
Yeah,
at
I'm
school.
going to get into that. Yeah, but the answer is yes. The answer to yes to both of those. We're going to strongly recommend that our students and our staff wear masks, and I'll go into the reasons why. But we're also going to get to a point where we don't want it to become a stigmatization for kids, and we don't want it to become a discipline issue for kids, right? Now, what I would encourage, especially for our little ones, and I'm going to talk to Mr. Bolin about this, we may survey our younger families, especially our K1, 2, so we have a running list of our kindergartners who don't understand what's going on, or first graders who don't understand what's going on, but we may say, Mrs. Barczyk, do you want such and such? I do not. Mr. Neal, I do. So at least we have that running list and so that we can help parents in that communication. Okay? This is preliminary information that I sent out at end of July, early August, regarding our opening plan, and nothing has changed. Vaccination is not a requirement for any student or staff in this district. Obviously, we're gonna strongly recommend that, in terms of our stance. But again, we believe that's a personal choice for families. And so right now, it is not a mandate and it's not a requirement for any of our families. We're going to, at this time, I'm going to preface that, we're going to have wearing masks as optional for our students and staff.
What about visitors?
Visitors, we will also be optional. It will also be optional. Yep. Now we're going to try to limit visitors in terms of people in the building. We're going to continue to use Zoom and some of those video conferencing, tools to help with the communication piece. But we're not going to do that, and we'll screen, visitors when they come in. Sure. How do you feel? Those types of things. But generally, we're not going to require that. No. Social distancing, we're going to try as much as possible, 3 feet of distancing. We're going to continue with our mitigation strategies. We're going to continue with the cleaning, constant communication to our families, screening, sanitation, contact tracing, disinfection. We're going to continue with having 2 of our cleaners scheduled midday. We felt that was very beneficial with some of our cleaning procedures. And with more kids coming in the building this school year, cafeteria is active, a lot more going on. We're gonna help out. We're gonna keep those day cleaners, that mid shift. So we'll have two early shifts, 2 first shift cleaners. We'll have 2 mid shift cleaners, and then the rest of our ladies and gentlemen will come in the evening in terms of cleaning. Okay, we will not require wellness checks. So last year, if you remember, kids would come in, they would get their temperature checked. We're not going to do that this year. We're going to still work on the hand sanitizer and making sure that's available for kids and staff as they walk in the building. But we're going to ask our families to do wellness checks. And I think this was great last year. Our families did an amazing job in communicating with our nurses, our health aides, our secretaries, our building principals. And so what I would say is we're just going to continue doing the same thing we've doing in terms of the communication. We're just not going to check the temperature piece. And the reason we're going to do that is CDC, Board of Health went away from that recommendation actually last year. We continued to do it through last year just from a precautionary standpoint, but we're going to move away from that this year because typically the fever piece is not what we're been told, and that's my conversation with Ms. Manley. Not one of the outlying symptoms in terms of a COVID diagnosis. So that's the reason we're going there. But I will say to our families, if kids are sick, keep them home. I think that's one of the reasons we were so successful last year. Ventilation, again, we're gonna continue to. We have a new facility over at the lower school. We're going to continue looking at our facility here. We're going to do a facility study this fall with GPD. Mrs. Neal has a couple univents scheduled, 3 univents scheduled for replacement, and so they're recommending keeping windows open, doors open. So we're going to continue doing those things. Obviously, we're going to encourage our teachers when possible and where appropriate, use outdoor facilities. That's not going to work so much in December, January, February, March, maybe April, but we're going to encourage those things. So we're going to continue to review our health protocols. We're going to have continue with our wellness committee. And I think what worked very well for us last year is that where we stood out, I think, as a school district, is that we made recommendations in 3 to 4 week chunks. And I think, Mr. Oper, you mentioned that at some point at the last meeting. And what that means to me is we're using our real data to drive our decision making. Here's what I would say. We know that the masking situation, and I recognize this, the masking situation is a difficult concept. And to be honest, it's a little politically charged, and that's not my point here. For every one email I received about thank you for keeping optional, I received another email saying, Dr. Claris, we'd really like you to consider mandating masks. Right now as a district, we're optional. If we open up school and we find that, especially at our younger building, our lower building, our pre-K through 7 building, that not having a masking mandate is causing us not to have kids in school. And I think that's the caveat here. We're coming from basically 4 days a week last year of a reduced schedule, about 6 hours a day, of which 6 of those weeks last year we were completely remote. Now we're at 5 days a week. Our ultimate goal is keeping kids in this building 5 days a week, all day, every day. Does that mean we're not going to have a quarantine situation? We absolutely are. There is no doubt right now. We had them last year. Even when the health situation got better in the spring, we were still having some of those situations. And so my recommendation we need to do what we did last year. We need to make our decisions in smaller chunks. What I struggle with as a parent last year, and I'll say this, and I love the school district my kids go to, some of their decision making was made over a 9-week course period where data changed significantly, health situation changed significantly. And so I don't want to do that. I want to be reactive, proactive to our data. And we open up school on the 30th, and we're going great, and we're only quarantining a few here or there, and we're working with families to make sure that they have the schoolwork they need. That's positive in my mind. The things we're doing are working. But if we get to a situation where the pandemic is impacting large groups of kids of staying in school, I have to call Bonnie or Rocky or any of you and say, I had to shut down 3 second grade classrooms, or I have to shut down a grade level, or I have 35 kids that are out sick whatever it may be, I want to be able to say to the Board of Education, to the administrative team, to the teaching staff, to the classified staff, that we're being proactive with regards to our data. And if I have to come back and say, I really think we need to switch to masking, I'll do that. But what I don't want to do now is I don't want to be reactive until we get the data, right? And so, because we have families that live on both sides of this situation, and nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong. And so, especially in my community where I live, this is a very hotly debated, and again, you've seen the news with other school districts, and this is very, very hotly debated. I want to use our Brooklyn data to make those decisions. I get Cuyahoga County data every week. I'm sick of looking at it because you have Cleveland in there, you have the bigger districts like Parma, all of those are clumped together. I want to say, this is what's happening in Brooklyn. That's the important piece. So what I will say to the board and to the families, the CDC, the Board of Health, Ohio Department of Health is strongly recommending wearing masks. So that is our stance, and that's our position right now as the district. Moms and dads, parents, families, we're going to give you a parental option to do that. But we are still strongly recommending that you do this. Here's why. If you look at the quarantine procedures, and you can kind of see it's a big flow chart that I've looked at 20 times, and I still got to look at it again to make sure I'm looking at it. I'll give you the kind of the summary piece. Obviously, if you're COVID positive, you're going to go into isolation. That's kind of the easy one to deal with. Obviously, we want people to be healthy and safe. But from a school district management standpoint, that's the easy one to deal with. Students are out for 10 days from the diagnosis or from onset of first symptoms. They can return after 7 days if they receive a negative COVID test, and that's a PCR antigen test. The test must be administered 5 days from that piece. That's easy. Where it becomes difficult is the close contact piece. And so here's the rules with close contact. I'll go back. If you are vaccinated or have a mask on, you are permitted to stay in school as long as you're symptom-free. So, Ted is in class, he becomes a close contact over the weekend. Mom calls in and says, Mrs. Manley, Ted was exposed to COVID, his cousin, and they were around each other. But Ted's a high school student, he's vaccinated. Mrs. Manley would say, thanks for the information. You're permitted to come to school as long as you're symptom-free, right? We would encourage anybody that's exposed to, especially because to keep in school, we would say, you know what, we would like you to wear a mask now. You've been exposed. We would like you to wear a mask, but you can still come to school. We still want you in school. As soon as you develop symptoms, then you go into isolation. But as long as you're symptom-free, vaccinated and masked, you will never be considered a close contact and will never have to quarantine as long as you're symptom-free. This is the reason we're strongly recommending to our families, to our students, wear a mask, okay? But we understand there's still parental option here, choice, and that's okay. But understand, and here's where it becomes difficult. With our younger students who do not have that ability to get vaccinations, or our younger students who are unmasked. That's the kicker. So once you become a close contact and you are unmasked and unvaccinated, and this goes for staff too. So I just want to so that goes for staff too. You then go into these quarantine procedures, right? And so that's the reason for the strong recommendation in terms of the masking for our students, especially our younger students who are not eligible to have the vaccine, or for parents who just say, you know what, I don't want my son or daughter to have that, and that's okay. That's okay. It's not our job as a school district to mandate that, and that will never be our message here. Our job is social emotional growth, wellness, health, physical wellness, and academics, right? But I want our families, and I want you as the board to understand just the natural consequences of not having that mask mandate, right? And so some districts have done it different ways, and I think I've shared with all of you. Some districts have said pre-K through 12, masks no matter vaccinated or not. We have some districts who have said 6 through 12, optional, pre-K through 5, you gotta wear them. And we've had districts that are like ours that have said, we're strongly gonna recommend, we're not gonna require. And so I go back to saying we really strongly recommend that families want to do it. Now, we understand that may not be what a family believes, and we're okay with that. But understand, we're going to follow these ODH protocols because our goal is uninterrupted student learning. Uninterrupted student learning. I don't want to come to the board and say I got to shut down the high school. Right? That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. And so we're gonna use our data. We're gonna use real-time data. And I had this conversation with an elementary parent. I said, this is not absolute. We can't say anything in absolution in terms of this pandemic. If anything we've learned that it's gonna change. It's gonna change daily, could change weekly, could change by the hour. And that's frustrating for me as an administrator. It's frustrating for me as a parent. It's frustrating for all of us. And we know that. But our ultimate goal is to stay in school 5 days a week. And so that's what I would say. Like, we're gonna go with this for now. We're going to put our mitigation strategy in place. We're gonna strongly encourage the masking. And we will kind of go week by week and see how it goes. Questions?
The difficulty is probably going to be not just with you, but for all administrators, is what is the threshold, what is the percentage for you to say, okay, we're going to go to a hybrid, or not a hybrid, but to make masks mandatory?
Yeah.
Is it percentages of classes, percentages of grade levels?
Yeah, and
That's
you know what, and that's a great question. I can't say to you that. I can't say to you I have a number in mind, or we have a number. There's no X percentage. I mean, part of it too is like we ran into a staffing issue last year, and that's part of it too. Mm-hmm. You know, if I get to a point, we get to a point where I can't get substitutes, or I have a large amounts of staff that are sick or have to isolate. That's going to be, and so. I think just from the perspective of we have to be open to change this year. Because I think if we went back in time, we went back to last August, and we said to everybody, you can go to school 5 days a week as long as you wear a mask. Nobody would have hesitated. Nobody. That's not where we're at this year. But and I'm okay with that. I understand that's the situation. But I want to say that this will be fluid, and we will watch our Brooklyn data. And at some point, if we have to change, I'm gonna call the board and say we have to make this change. And here's why. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say we're just going to change because. I'm going to say we need to change because of A, B, and C. Because our goal is 5 days a week, all day, every day. I don't want to go into the hybrid world. I don't want to go into the remote world. Don't want to enter that in any. We did a great job last year. Don't want to go back. Our kids need to be here. Our families want our kids here. And that's our position. That's my position.
Rick, did you have a question?
Yeah. Dr. Ted, just out of curiosity, Can ESSER money be used to buy better masks?
They can.
Because,
They can.
you know, a lot of the controversy that's out there is, and I see it firsthand, these kids, you know, they want to show their Brooklyn pride, they'll wear Brooklyn cloth masks, which are very ineffective other than for preventing the spray nodules
Sure.
when they sneeze. I'm just kind of wondering if we can purchase maybe some N95s.
We have some, Mr. Ziegler.
Do we?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
So- so we
I'm
can
not
sell
gonna, I'm not,
them.
I can't tell you how many we have. I know we have some. I'd have to talk to Mrs. Neal about that, but I will also say that we've offered that to our staff. And if I have a family member who wants to go down that road, just call me and we'll figure it out. But, you know, and I think that with regards to the protocols for quarantining, it's not very stringent on what type of mask.
I know.
They're just asking if you're masking, you know, and I think when you look at the discipline of wearing the mask, I remember wearing a mask last year and starting, it's very difficult, you know, so I think it's a very general procedure right now in terms of what type of mask, you know, if I'm wearing this cloth mask or I'm wearing an N95, we're not asking what type of mask, we're asking, or did you wear a mask? So, to answer your question, but to your point, if we have families that are truly concerned about that piece, give us a call, let's see what we can do to help you out, absolutely.
Are there kid-friendly masks?
I mean, we have the kind of the standard hospital blue type of ones. We have the small ones for the little ones, because what we were finding is that these masks like this, it's like, you know, kindergartners can't fit, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, so Mrs. Neal purchased the smaller masks. So we have those kid-friendly masks, but we also had our little ones last year, especially our elementary, young primary. They love wearing their masks because it was Spider-Man, or because it was Star Wars, or because it was whatever their favorite, and so we encouraged it from that perspective.
Do you know, or Jim, I don't know if you know about Polaris, are they making masks, man?
I was gonna mention that, basically we're mirroring what Brooklyn's doing.
Okay, didn't want to steal your thunder, just was wondering.
Yeah, that's, no.
So, okay. And then I do have one more question
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
To clarify, so if we have volunteers on the bus, because everyone is required to wear the mask
Yes.
on the bus.
Every staff member, volunteer,
Parent,
parent, student, bus driver, anybody that's on the bus in a transportation manner, when that bus starts rolling, they have to have the mask on.
okay, just want
Yes.
to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify that.
And if anybody refuses, they just are not permitted on the bus.
That's a correct statement. Yeah, that's a correct statement. So just a couple, and we went through these procedures last year. So if a student's under quarantine, the student will receive learning assignments and teacher support through Google Classroom. We're gonna look at board approving, and this will come in September, but finding our staff members who wanna take up a tutoring role. If any of our students do have to quarantine, we have a teacher support during that time. So we're looking into that. I gotta work with, you know, Mrs. Kalish needs to work with the building principals on kind of what that looks like, how we do it. But we're looking at that, so for students that do have to isolate or quarantine, we're looking at some of that online support for those students. If an entire class or building is quarantined, we would look at flipping the switch and going to a remote type of platform during that time in a large group setting. You know, that's assuming the staff member is not sick and can still teach. And then if a teacher's under quarantine, and this really worked really well last year, we had a couple teachers who had a quarantine, and kids were in class with a certified substitute or another BCS teacher, and the teacher zoomed in to teach the kids. So our staff was flexible, they were great about it, and so the goal is not to interrupt learning. And again, that's depending if they can teach because they're not too sick. We're gonna continue to monitor our district data, COVID data, through our dashboard that's on our website. Unfortunately, our parents are still gonna get the fun letters from me. When it happens, what I will say to our parents and our families, you will not get a letter until all of our students in that situation have been contacted, right? So what we find, again, this is living through the situation, we would have the situation, and parents would say, is my student involved? So in the letter, I specifically put, if you have not, if you have already been contacted, if your student, so I want to say that kind of officially, we contact all the families, all the parents first, and then we send that letter. Okay, and we'll maintain this dashboard every week. Just some operating procedures, you know, we're going to continue with hand sanitizer, soap, daily
Yeah.
use, cleaning supplies. You know, we have desk table shields that are still available. I'm going to be honest with you, the desk table shields do not prevent a quarantine situation. You know, so one of the things that all districts found out is that last year in August, we all purchased all these desk shields. And then 5 months later, they said, oh, by the way, it doesn't matter. You can have a desk shield or not. It's not going to prevent a quarantine. However, we still have those available for our teaching staff if they choose to, and for students if they feel comfortable with that. We talked about the cleaners, talked about the visitors. We're going to continue to try to minimize some of that. We're going to ask, do some health checks as they walk in the door. But we're going to continue with some of the Zoom meetings and conferences to help facilitate some of our communication with our families, but also for that convenience piece. Let's be honest, if a parent can facilitate a meeting in Zoom and not have to leave work, we want to help our parents out. So we're going to continue doing some of the face-to-face through Zoom type of meetings. And then we've talked about orientation. We're going to do it by grade level in classroom to limit the number of people in the building. Contact information is there for everybody. This presentation is posted on our website. My specific presentation will be available, obviously, on YouTube. And what I would say to any parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever, if you have a question, please call me. And so I just want to, any questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now on to the treasurer's report. Mrs. A.
I have a short report for you today. I'm going to go over my agenda items. On the agenda, I have the July financials for approval. I have the recommendation to increase the credit card limit to pay workers' comp. That's the second reading of that one. I have that one on the agenda. And then I have a generous donation. And that was my report.
Okay. Now on to comments from board members and board committee reports. And tonight we're going to start from Mr. Rocky Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have a committee report, but I'd just like to welcome staff, students back to a safe, friendly place. But say good luck to all the fall sports. Enjoy. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Now on to Mr. Rob Slattery.
We have not had a rec board meeting, but I've seen a lot of positive comments about Safety Town. The kids seem to like
Yeah.
it. The setup they have is pretty cool up there. And then the Facilities Committee, we've seen some of the updates at the stadium. Parking lots look just tremendous. Cleaned the whole area up. Yeah, and we have some other things going on through the building with some bed replacements and things. Other than that, good luck. I saw a bunch of kids posting photos, parents posting the photos of their first day at Polaris, so kids seemed excited.
The first day flyers are on our website. So if parents want to print out those first day of school flyers, they can do that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slattery. And now on to Mr. Jim Ober.
As everybody's mentioned, Polaris went very smooth this morning. And Mr. Barczyk mentioned that the masking policy for them is the same as us, optional but strongly recommended for students. As of today, Fairview Park is the only school in the consortium that is making masks mandatory. And that was that did not get by without some give and take back and forth at their board meeting. The larger lab areas at Polaris, obviously there's greater air circulation because they're so large and the doors are open for quite a bit of the day. But just even for further mitigation, they're going to have instructional aids in those areas when they say there's 25 kids in HVAC, they're gonna, section them off maybe in groups of 6 or 10 or whatever. And they do a different kind of instruction in HVAC so that you don't have 25 kids all grouped together looking at something, so it'll even break it down a little bit more. It's hard to believe school's starting next week. It's like 5 minutes ago, we were sitting on the stadium sweating through robes. But best wishes for a successful start, and as Dr. Claire said, policies will change depending how the way things go. Next Friday, looking forward to the dedication of Coach Jerry Younger Field. I hope to see everybody there, and that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Ober.
Possibility of dinner at Polaris this year?
I didn't want to.
Commit, Jim. Commit,
Pull some
Jim.
strings, let's go.
Come on, Jim.
I didn't want to spoil the surprise, but yes, it's definitely on the calendar.
It's one of the greatest dinners you'll have all year.
Yes, awesome, good
You
job.
can't go.
Thanks, Mr. Ober, thanks.
But I will
No treasurers.
I will throw in the fact that the board gets a special dinner next month just for the board.
Thanks, Jim, you're gonna take all of us as your guests, aren't you? You're +1,
Well, no, this is
+2,
just for the
+3.
board, but you're just going to have to wait.
You can take a +4, +5, +6. You
I'd
can
like to
put us
do,
on.
I'd like to do a meeting there. We did a meeting.
That's, I should have mentioned that. That's also
On the gr-
on the cards for this year.
Good.
When we have our meeting there, they
I'd
can
like
have
to
us
see the
dinner.
tour of the new building too.
That.
See what our tax
yeah.
dollars paid for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd like us to come there, and, they want
That'd be
to come
great.
here, and, they're going to want to farm some of the meetings out as well.
Good.
Good. Thanks, Jim.
I should have the butt in there.
Now on to Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. We have not scheduled a Finance Committee meeting as of yet, but hopefully we'll have one before the next school board meeting. Very nice to see our Brooklyn Polaris students today go to their first day in Polaris. It was nice. And love the parking lots, too. I think, we're seeing a lot of progress with facilities and with the furniture and so forth. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. I would also like to welcome everyone back. I can't believe it just seems like we were just getting out of school like a few days ago, and now we're already back. Class of 2034, Jesus, take the wheel, I feel old. Like, oh my
I will
gosh.
say that the class of 2035 will be my retirement year. So
Oh,
just-
okay.
Not that we're counting, but next year's kindergartner. So our current that will be my
Oh, okay.
officially my last class.
Not that you're counting.
Not that we're counting, right.
Not that you're counting
Right.
at all. So welcome back, and I would like to also welcome all of our new staff that came, and I hope everyone had a good first day at Polaris. I would like to thank Mrs. Neal and our summer cleaners for all the hard work that they do. They really are the unsung heroes, and people don't know what they do behind the scenes all summer long to make sure this building is ready to go when school starts at the beginning of the year. So thank you to Mrs. Neal and all of those summer cleaners. I do also would like to wish good luck to our fall sports and our band members. I hope they have a great fall. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to things getting back a little bit to normal, being able to attend all those things and stuff. So I also would like to say what Jim said. I hope that the community comes out and joins us next Friday, August 27th. Get there very early. We're going to be having the dedication for the Jerry Younger Field. There will be a presentation. I know a lot of the alumni are coming. Some of, our past football players and, past students of Mr. Younger, and I believe his family's going to be there as well. So please come out and join us for a fun evening. It's going to be a great night. If anyone would ever like to speak to me about any school-related topics, I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. And that is my report. And now we're on to the reading of minutes and board agenda items, and tonight's reader is Mr. Rocky Neal.
Resolved that the minutes of the Board of Education meeting be adopted and all action been taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of July 2021, including all purchase orders paid and all then and now statements for the month of is as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the second reading and adoption of the following board policies: PO 2370.01, blended learning.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the purchase of textbooks and curriculum resources from LearnZillion Illustrative Mathematics for grades 6 through 8, math and algebra, 6-year license on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just a quick discussion on this item. So part of our textbook curricular resource adoption, we've went for many years without a curricular adoptions in many different subject areas, and Mrs. Kalish and Mrs. A here have worked with each other in terms of developing an adoption cycle. We need to get our kids and our staff in resources to help them. And so, and I have Mrs. Kalish here. She can answer specific questions. But this, we went through a pilot last year, grades 6 through 8 math. You remember from earlier in the year, we did the grades K through 5 with Envision. So this will be a recommendation for the grades 6 through 8 math and Algebra 1. Also for this year, which will be they will be piloting and working through finishing up geometry and Algebra 2. So that'll be coming next school year. But questions or comments regarding the math piece?
This is a 6-year license?
6-year license,
Okay.
Mr. Neal, yes.
What is Illustrative Mathematics?
So it's a vendor, LearnZillion is the organization that operates it. Basically, it's constructive math, so it's hands-on, backwards design, very much in line with the Ohio Learning Standards for math. And our teachers spent this, if you recall, the board has adopted the textbook adoption cycle each year in the fall. This was started in 1920 school year, got postponed because of COVID. Teachers in those grade levels spent time looking at other products, did not find that it was suitable for what they were looking for, so they went back to the table and said, look, we'd like to spend more time. COVID interrupted some of that work, so we want to really make sure we get this right. So they went back and looked at this. It has very high marks. Other school districts have adopted it. And our teachers are really excited about getting in and using the technology tools as well as the hands-on materials. It's well aligned with the Ohio Learning Standards as well. So it's just a name they gave it, just like we have Envision. You know, you could say, well, what's Envision? You know, it's just a math program. They've titled it that way because it's illustrating math to students in their explanation of the program. So it's just the name they gave it.
So a 2 still looks like a 2 and the 4
Correct,
is.
yeah. It's not anything,
Yeah, that's still 4.
Still math, just the name they gave the program, that's all.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the purchase of textbooks and curricular resources from SAVVAS for grades 3 through 12 science, 6-year license on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I texted you this afternoon. Can you go into a little more detail as far as the approach? Is it a different approach? Or is it?
So, if you remember when we did the presentation for the K-5, so in 1920, we should have adopted a math series for the district. We postponed it because of COVID. So last year, we were doing both math and science simultaneously. Don't recommend that, but we did it because it's just the way that it felt. So I created a committee in the fall for science. All of our teachers who are teaching teaching science, grades 3 through 12 participated. They looked at resources that other districts were using, recommended resources. We used websites that rate, just like when you buy something on Amazon, you look at the ratings to see how it's been rated. We do the same thing when we look at curricular resources. They then challenge with Ohio is Ohio's science standards. We use the Ohio Learning Standards for science, and many states use the national science standards. So there's 2 parallels running there. So textbooks options for the Ohio standards were fewer to look at. So what our teachers did was look at the ones that were available, that were aligned to Ohio, and chose 2 to look at that were specifically well-rated. Ohio Fusion, which was a Houghton Mifflin product, and the SAVVAS product. They ran pilots in their classrooms in grades 3 through 12. The grades K through 2, science and social studies is embedded in the literacy standards, so they don't need a textbook to support the learning standards. So 3 through 12, they ran those pilots, they gave feedback, there was a rubric, just like we did with math, very much the same process. What they came back and said was the SAVVAS product was superior in alignment with the Ohio standards, so they had to go out fewer times to find supplemental resources to support it. They had a great customer service response and support. If they had a question or a problem, SAVVAS was very responsive to their needs, and they felt that the usability for both staff and students was higher with the SAVVAS product than it was with the HMH product, which is why we came out with that recommendation.
Is it more of an interactive, just like the math?
It is very much constructive, hands-on, like the math approach, where we're getting kids using labs and as much as possible and getting dirty with science, because that's what we want, right? We
Right.
don't want it just to be textbook driven. There is literature also that goes with it that's high interest and level, so students that are struggling with reading can be placed in the appropriate reading level so that they can comprehend the context that they're trying to be taught.
Yeah,
So-
those students probably are better aligned with that as far as having more hands-on, that they're not getting pushed out with a bunch of facts and figures right away and then having to wade through all of that.
And there was also with that product a lot of technology support so that students are utilizing those technology tools they're going to need in order to take those state assessments later on in their school year. So,
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just say it's refreshing talking about curriculum
Yeah.
and student achievement and those types of things. So-
Nice to have the normal stuff, huh?
That's right, that's right.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oker.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education authorize the superintendent to enter into agreement with JR Funding Support Services for providing E-rate support services from August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2024. Agreement on file in the Treasurer's Office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So
Can
moved.
I have a second, please?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Question, so this is for monitoring the free reduced lunch program?
No, so E-rate is a federal program that helps us on reimbursement in terms of certain items that we purchase. So to go into it, it's called Category 1, Category 2 funding, internet services, purchasing of Chromebooks, those types of things. We are, because of our status as a school district, we are, depending on the situation, and let's say we purchase, I'll just use a general example, let's say we purchase a new wireless system in the district, hypothetically. Depending on our reimbursement rate with the federal government, we could get some of that money back. So let's say we spent $100,000 on a new wireless system, hypothetically, we could potentially earn back 40 to 60% of that money. This gentleman here I worked with in my previous school district, I will say that the system, the E-rate system, is one of the most cumbersome and complicated and difficult systems to deal with. When Mr. Taylor used to work with Mrs. Kalish in terms of that monitoring of E-rate, our E-rate reimbursement. This gentleman here, JR Funding Services, will work with Mrs. Kalish in terms of the requirements to obtain that funding. So it's strictly a $1,200 investment to make sure we're getting up to close to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 back in terms of, so he works with Mrs. Kalish in terms of because the federal requirements are very, very stringent, very specific. So this is purely a backup solution for us to make sure we're getting all the money we are due back from the federal government.
So we're paying them, the gentleman a flat fee every month?
Never year, it's $1,200 a
Or
year.
is it, I thought I saw a monthly charge.
It's $1,200 a year, and it's
And that's it.
it's a one-time fee, and he works with Michelle in terms of our potential reimbursement. Yeah.
We have certain deadlines we have to file forms and applications by, and so we work with Neonet, which is our ITC, to provide our internet and service, but they cannot do the ERATE filing because they're a service provider. So because we're contracting with them potentially for technology support in-house, we can't utilize them in that capacity. So to fill the void where Taylor left, this gentleman will be doing the filing. I'll oversee it, but he will actually create the spreadsheets, complete the application process, so that we guarantee we get that reimbursement. For example, when we did our wireless infrastructure a few years ago, we got 60% of that money back. So we spent, let's say you spent $100,000, but you got 60% of that back in-house from this program. So it's definitely something we want to take advantage of, but we want to do it right, because if we screw it up, then we get, in trouble with the federal government, we got to pay that money back, we don't want to go down that road. So we just want to make sure we get it right, so that
He'll
everything
make
is.
he'll make sure that we're meeting deadlines. He'll say to us, hey, you have X amount of dollars available for this, so he's kind of that check and balance for us to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck in terms of that reimbursement. So he was vital to my survival in my previous life, and I think with Taylor leaving us for another position, it's something that's needed in the district.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mrs. Alex.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following volunteer for the 2020-2021 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Thank you
Should
for
say-
volunteering.
Thank you.
Should say 21 to 22.
It should.
Yes,
Sure.
21 to
Yeah,
22.
I'll check that, thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
As
Thanks
amended.
for the volunteers.
Thank you.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of the CATS employee, Mary Matika, CATS preschool classroom assistant, effective immediately.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of Diana Dunlap, playground monitor, effective immediately.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following CATS preschool classroom assistant for the 2021-2022 school year, contingent upon satisfactory completion of all credentials and background checks. Hannah Schramm, CATS preschool classroom assistant, 7.25 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and up to 5 additional hours on Fridays, Appendix B, Step 3, 191 days per year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
Question. So Hannah Schramm is replacing Mary Matika.
Yes. Yes.
How is our enrollment in CAS? Any idea?
I don't have, I'll find that out for you. I do not have those numbers as of yet. They're still coming in, but I'll find out for
Is
you.
it healthy though? I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's
It was
great, yeah.
40-something, I thought, in Friday's report, wasn't it?
That's preschool.
That-
That was preschool. So if we're talking about the after-school CATS
Oh,
program.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll find out, Mr.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I'll find out, Mr. Singer.
all right, thanks.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Mary Madison as a classified substitute bus monitor for the 2021-22 school year, contingent upon satisfactory completion of all credentials and background checks.
Can I have a motion, please?
So
Yep.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby amends Resolution 21-06-243 to reflect the FTE change of Nicolette Kunif from faculty manager .25 FTE to faculty manager .50 FTE.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby amends Resolution 21-06-165 to reflect the change in hours for Diana Dunlop from 3.5 hours per day up to an additional 4 hours weekly to 29 hours per week with an additional 5 hours per week as needed.
That was a tongue twister. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
So what's happening here is Diana is resigning her playground monitor position that she worked in the afternoon, and she's going basically into a full-time preschool classroom assistant position to fill some of the needs we have. So we have a hole as a playground monitor now, but so that's the reason for the adjustment.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following athletic event workers for the 2021-2022 school year, as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
We've never approved these before, have we?
No?
Mrs. A,
No,
this is on you.
that's correct. So any one of these, well, now they're employees that we direct to what time they have to be there, where they have to go, they should technically be our employees for the IRS. So they are now.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the second reading and adoption of the following board policy, PO 6423, use of credit cards.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is what we spoke about last meeting, where we're putting one up and the rest are not, right?
Correct. Yeah,
That was
the one,
Ow.
I got it. The one card will have more to pay the workers' comp that will be in the treasurer's office locked up. We won't be passing that one out.
Right.
And then the other ones will remain a lower credit card limit.
And we get 1% cash back.
Maybe we get
Correct.
points back. yeah.
Right, yes, to the district.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education, in accordance with ORC 3313.26, gratefully accepts the generous donation of the complete set of Encyclopedia Britannicas Platinum Series and a set of the great books and a set of the Annals of America with a combined value of $3,609 from Jean Riccardi.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the
Yeah,
donation.
number one,
Appreciate
thank you,
it.
but
Thank
number two, whose job is it to explain to the kids what an encyclopedia is?
Yep.
What is that?
We're going old school.
You put, if you're short, you put it up one.
Hey, I like it, I like it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes. Do we have any correspondence related to action information? None. Other business?
The only other thing I would like to say is, I won't be there next Friday. I just want to welcome all the old Brooklyn guys that I'll know. And I won't see them unless there's something after the game.
I believe there is.
Is there? All right, well, I'll get that time and date. I know that, whenever we get there. So I just want to, Harry McCormick's done a wonderful job
Yes.
PRing this. I know that my younger brother played for Jerry Younger at one point, played football as well too, so. I don't know if I ever met him, but I knew of him. He was a pretty good guy, so. You guys enjoy it. I may see you after.
thank you to Harry. Harry really did spearhead and really did all of the, back work for all of that. And he contacted Rob. Thank you for everything you guys did with that. The only other business I was supposed to mention, and I forgot to, that the post-prom is having a car wash this Sunday, 11 to 4, at the Brooklyn High School parking lot up front. So everyone's car, it's gonna rain, come get your car washed and support our post-prom committee. 11 to 4 at the front of the high school. Yeah, yep. So,
I will hit as many puddles as I can this week.
yeah.
I got one item of business. I just wanted to ask Colleen, when do we have to submit the reservations for the OSBA Capital Conference?
I did already. Did you want to go?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll add you to the list.
Okay.
Curveball.
Anything else? Anything else? Okay. All right. Announcement of the next regular board meeting is on September 7th, 2021, in the Brooklyn High School Community Room, High School Room 173, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, 6 p.m. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.